the 1st of January 2019, the Bajaj Dominar has landed on the iceberg in the Antarctic Peninsula and on land in the Antarctic. This is unbelievable.
Throughout your life, how many kilometers you would have done? just one.
About 500,000-600,000 kilometers, Bulu. 1994, around the world, 42,000 kilometers, 47 days, 119 days in all. And we got featured in the Limca Book of World Records as world record, all the way down to Ushuaia, which gave me about 51,000 kilometers. And 99 days of riding. For a country like ours, the big bikes hold zero value.
हेलो दोस्तों, वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल द न्यू वीडियो। दोस्तों, हमारे साथ जो है आज जिस इंसान की वीडियो में आपको जिनके साथ मैं पॉडकास्ट करने वाला हूँ, वो मेरा एक बहुत बड़ा इंस्पिरेशन रह चुके हैं। इनफैक्ट मेरे दिमाग में बहुत बार ऐसा आइडिया है कि उनके साथ कभी बात करूं और उनको लेके एक वीडियो बनाऊं, लेकिन अब तक जो है अपॉर्चुनिटी कभी नहीं मिलता था। और कभी कभी होता नहीं कि यार एक अच्छा स्टोरी के लिए एक अच्छा टाइम भी चाहिए। मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम वो जो है बहुत ज़्यादा बिजी रहते हैं, उनका बहुत सारा ट्रैवल ट्रिप ये सब रहता है। अब कुछ दिनों पहले जो है एक जगह पे एक डिस्कशन हो रहा था, एक बाइकर लोगों का डिस्कशन हो रहा था, तो सब लोग बात कर रहे थे कि आपके लाइफ में इंस्पिरेशन कौन है। मतलब वो बोलते हैं कि एक ग्रेट राइडर, एक लेजेंड राइडर, आप किसको बोलोगे। वो टाइम पे मैंने पॉइंट आउट किया था कि यार दीपक दा।
वेल बुलू, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल थैंक यू जो आपने ये प्लेटफॉर्म मुझे दिया है। Forever grateful. You've been a great friend. We've known each other for quite some years now. I recollect the first ride across the Trans-Siberian is when we kind of bonded, and then we have stayed friends since then. To your point of getting old, I believe age is just a number. तो मन में आप सोचोगे अगर आप बूढ़े हो रहे हैं ना, तो समझो कि आप बूढ़े हो गए।
सही बात।
So I always tell people, fear is a state of mind. Think you can do it and half the battle is won. So positivity brings in a lot of changes in the way you handle and manage different aspects of your life, your career, your adventures, be it anything, face fear as if you know and you're sure that you can handle it. That's the way I would put my best foot forward. And fortunately for me, if I go back to my younger days, again, not that I'm very old now, but if I go back to 1988, and a lot of people would be thinking, yaar, मैं पैदा ही नहीं हुआ था, but that's nice to hear. Sometimes, like I can take anecdotes of those years and tell people that, like the world was a beautiful place. Right. Mobile phones नहीं थे, इंटरनेट नहीं था, ईमेल नहीं था, वी वर रियली ग्राउंडेड। फ़ोन के लिए अगर किसी से बात करना है तो ट्रंक कॉल के ज़माना था कि फ़ोन नंबर किसी ऑपरेटर को दे दो और फ़ोन के पास बैठो या बगल वाला घर पे जाओ, रिक्वेस्ट देम, आंटी मेरे को एक फ़ोन करना है। आई मीन दोज वर बॉन्डिंग डेज। वी यूज्ड टू मीट पीपल, we used to interact with humans, real humans. Right. If you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Absolutely. Today we are on a age of WhatsApp and Instagram. Google Meet and Zoom calls and Instagram. One thing I really liked about you, and I'm not telling that because you're doing this podcast for me, but look at it this way. Yesterday we interacted a couple of lines, and then you decided to call. Right. I mean, that's still a young timer. Right. I mean, today, sometimes I find difficulty with people where communication is only through texting. Yes. I don't really understand that. True. I mean, why? If you really want to talk to people, pick up the phone. Today, like we are blessed with good connectivity, but unfortunately, it's kind of diluted so much कि लोगों ने एक shell जैसे बना के रखा है, तो you're not available easily to talk. Right. So I've seen this gradual change and a sudden surge when technology creeped into our lives. When I did my round the world back in 1994, I did it on a AAA maps of the United States, the American Automobile Association, paper maps.
This was Deepak around 1994, right?
94.
On the
SD, on the SD Road King, and it was a massive project. Right. I mean, to ride across all the 6 continents and to cover the length of the equator.
And that to Deepak, 29 years back.
Yeah.
It is not, because today things are very easy compared to...
Absolutely. I mean, today, we all are glued to the various app platforms like Google Maps or Maps.me, or, there are there are routes that are available for you to buy. Plug it into your TomTom or your whichever. Exactly. And then like you are just connected to technology.
So Deepak, the last trip was I think the Africa trip that you did, and prior to that आपने जो 29 years back का जो trip है हम उसका थोड़ा सा बात करेंगे, because as you said that technology is available now and things are quite easy. So arranging things are also quite easy.
Absolutely.
So वो time पे कैसा रहा आपका experience? Because I have like so many questions कि यार कैसे plan किए होंगे? How did it start from scratch? Like कोई एक दिन आपने बैठा होगा कि यार मुझे ये करना है.
Yeah, absolutely. Bulu, I always I get goosebumps as I put my mind into a rewind and go back to those 1990s, because it's really important.
I also saw a photograph that कि खारदुंगला पे आपने 1990s पे एक photo upload किया.
That was a 1990 August. I remember. I forget the exact date, but that's a very momentous picture for me, because we were held back at South Pulu. We did not have the permit to go down. The major sahab there insisted, no, without permission you cannot go. So we had to ride down back to the commander's office, and I was an NCC cadet, and a smart civilian salute to the commander as I walked in changed a lot of things. And I believe even for the young generation today, stand up and ask. There will be only two answers, a yes or a no. Nobody can kill you for it, right? For asking a question. I wouldn't say that for the same Western countries, because it's a little dramatic out there. But in my country, I believe that people will acknowledge your effort. And that's exactly goes back to 1990, where, as a NCC cadet, I stepped into the commander's office, gave him a very smart civilian salute, and told him I'm riding my bike and I'm here with my partner, and we are headed towards the Khardungla. So chai biscuit aa gaya, बैठने के लिए बोला, had a 15-20 minute chat, and he told us guys to create the permit. उसका कॉपी शायद मेरे पास अभी भी है.
अच्छा, you have kept.
हाँ. And then I went to South Pulu. Same major साहब थे, बेटे. Then he said, लगता है weather warning आएगा, आप जल्दी से ऊपर जाके वापस आ जाओ, चाय पिएंगे बाद में. So South Pulu से we went there, and if you see today, Khardungla is a picnic spot.
It's a picnic spot.
You roads are tarmac. I mean, in those days, like those. I mean, I forget how many kilometers were there. Memory takes the better of me here, but I believe it was a very, very Herculean climb.
Right.
Those twisties around there. I mean, the army guys relentlessly working to.
And no bikes here and there, na?
Nobody. At all. There was no one. One there. We came across army trucks, army jawans थे उसमें, उनके साथ बैठे, and this was on my way down, if I remember, because after South Pulu to Khardungla was a rush, because we had a weather window, weather window warning, and there I still have that picture. There were two structures there. What we came across was two boards, which very beautifully said the highest motorable road in the world, Khardungla Pass, at 18,380 feet above sea level. Okay. And then thoda bagal mein, sky is the limit. I have that picture as well. I don't think that that structure is there anymore. And as we were taking pictures, I mean, I carried a tripod, and I'm talking about the film roll zamana. Aajkal, like digital, format karo, SD card use karo, format karo. And
that was that film, 32.
And we had to really be conscious about, like the frames. I mean, we can't, expensive.
Photography is very expensive.
Photography, developing, I still have those negatives with me. I mean, that's what life is all about. Nice. And each and every picture was printed. Okay. I still have the albums. Achha. So, आज के ज़माने में, in case you are doing that, you are a good traveler. I can challenge you that. How many pictures have you printed from your travels?
That is true.
It is not about Instagram and putting it up on YouTube for eternity, right?
Ourselves.
It is for you, for your friends.
Having that physical memory.
That's really important. So we went there, we took pictures, and as we were heading down, it started snowing, and we got again back into Major Saab's den. Okay. Chai ho gaya. Biscuit ho gaya, pakode ho gaye, samose ho gaye, and then we stayed there for about 4 or 5 hours because the weather was bad. And then we wound down and then we came back.
This was like around 1990 that you planned the Ladakh trip.
Yeah.
How did you get
And
that
during
idea?
that time, I'm continuing that. I get drifted. So thank you for bringing me back. You know. 1990 was Khardungla, and in those days we did this 11,180 kilometers in 267 hours.
Okay.
So I don't know why I chose to do the fastest kind of a thing. I mean, I sit back and look at it now. I regret it. I mean, probably the Josh, you know, I was all of 21 probably.
Oh, 21.
21 years. And that Josh tha ki, you know, like, it was not about travel. It was about records.
Right.
And if I look back as those days, I have some vivid memory of meeting some nice people, spending time like that Major Sahab. I still have some really beautiful pictures from that ride.
I also saw a picture with Rahul Gandhi ji.
Yes, Rajiv Gandhi.
Sorry, Rajiv Gandhi.
Rajiv, twice. Yeah.
Twice,
So, I mean, memories are really, really strong because we have etched those moments for life. I wouldn't be able to say the same thing in many other places, the most recent ones which are digitally driven.
Right.
So going back to 1990 and 1991 was when there's a couple from Calcutta
Okay.
who did around the world in 53 days.
Acha.
Now, I may get the days wrong, but it was Miss Nina and Saluddin Chowdhury of Calcutta who did around the world in 53 days. Now, around the world was like, it was again a speed record wherein, you know, like you're covering the 6 continents.
Okay.
You're doing a 1,000-mile drive in each continent.
Okay.
But the total distance covered should be the length of the equator, which is about 40,073.03 kilometers, or about 25,000 miles. Now, ये लोग कलकत्ता से they actually became the first people in the world, first people in the world to drive around the 6 continents.
Okay.
Now, 6 continents means not every country.
Right.
You are touching every continent, but you are doing 1,000-mile minimum in each continent.
Achha.
But your total distance covered should be the length of the equator, which is 25,000 miles.
Okay.
So you need to plan your route in such a way that you touch a continent, do 1,000 miles without using the same road twice. Just because you like Bombay, Delhi, आप ऊपर नीचे नहीं जा सकते. आप बॉम्बे से दिल्ली निकल गए तो दिल्ली से आगे निकल जाओ. आप वापस नहीं आ सकते या फिर दूसरा रास्ता you have to do. So they became the first couple.
But Deepak, how do you figure out कि these couple were doing it? Because that time there was no social media presence.
No, it was on newspapers. I mean, I have those cuttings.
Okay.
I mean, newspaper cutting. I mean, every day, you know, the norm was you get either an English newspaper. Mom used to read Kannada newspaper. So newspapers were our only window to the rest of the world.
Right.
And this grabbed my attention. 53 days, because we are just out of doing that 16-day trip across Kanyakumari to Khardungla and Kathmandu, coming back to Bangalore. And even we were flashed in newspapers. You know, we had half a page ads released by ESD. I still have those cuttings, by the way. Our exposure was the newspapers. Right. So I saw this and I was interested. Wow, 53 days. So I went to ESD. I mean, ESD to like backdoor was 120 kilometers from my place to Ideal Java factory in Yadavgiri, Mysore was 127 kilometers. बस 2-2.5 घंटे का राइड था उस दिन, narrow single lane. I mean, probably 1/100th of the traffic that we have today.
Oh, but that less.
That less. I mean, old Fiat cars, Ambassador cars. I mean,
you have any pictures of those times?
Yeah. Okay. Bike was our ESD range, the Deluxe, CL2 and Road King and 175. Rajdoot, वो दूध वाला गाड़ी, you know. I mean, 175cc Rajdoot. Hardly any bullets in those days, and bullet bhi to, you know, like ulta ka, you know, your right hand side was your gears and all that thing. I go back to those days and I realize the value that the management of ESD gave for people like, you know, be it C.K. Chinnappa or Ravi Tirumale or Ashwini, Jagat and Anita Nanjappa, these are all in the rally category.
Okay.
Bringing it on an endurance ride of a different scale across the country.
Okay.
Probably, I'm not sure who else was doing it, but I was there. And I recollect my great times with now late MD, Mr. Tempton Irani, and the current CMD of Rusumji Properties in Bombay, and the president of CREDA India, Mr. Boman Irani. He was the director, Tempton was the managing director. And I always refer Mr. Tempton's wife, Ms. Shiraz Irani, as my lady luck, because these are the people with whom I closely reacted, spilling out my dreams. And when I went to SD that day, I remember Boman was in the MD's cabin, and I made my presence there and told Boman,
Yes.
let's do around the world in 60 days on the SD road.
So you approached Mr. Bom.
Yeah. I said, let's do around the world in 60 days. So Boman looked up at me and said, are you nuts? I still remember that, that reaction. It was out of the blue, right? I mean, nobody was even thinking of doing a round the world on a motorcycle, at least from India. I mean, there are a lot of Westerners who have done it. Right. And there are a lot of people who have actually taken motorcycles out up to Europe, or, they've done there are teams from Pune which have ridden out to London. And, I'm not trying to say I was there the first time. No, I'm not. But thinking of going around the world in 60 days, I think nobody was thinking on those lines. So initial reaction of Boman was, are you nuts? Then 10 दिन उसके पीछा पड़ गया मैं. I said, Boman, करते हैं. I'm sure we can do it. I need support here, there. कुछ एक $10,000-12,000 का खर्चा है. Please allow me to come back to you.
Did you make that budget plan also?
Yeah, I still have that budget. I still have that rupee value what I have spent towards that. The round the world costed me 16 lakhs.
And just imagine, this is like 29 years back.
Exactly.
That time.
29 years back, including my air tickets, including my fuel, including my oil, including my goose, because a couple of countries I had to bribe them. And the fun that we had in places in the US, like going to the Universal Studios, and those places, every cost was maintained because we were attempting for a Guinness record.
Right.
And when I reached out to the Guinness Book of World Records, they said, we don't have a separate guideline for motorcycles. So you have to follow what is meant for cars. Okay. So 1,000 mile in each continent, 25,000 mile across the 6 continents. That's the norm, without using the same road twice. Maintain your logbook, maintain your fuel receipts and photographs and blah, blah, blah. They had a long list of, do's, what you need to retain for you to claim a record.
Right.
So between 91 and probably 93, I followed these guys. There was an adventure team called the British Army from the UK. They beat Saluddin's record by 40 days. Again, as I say, please don't quote me on these days. I may be wrong here, but the sequence was Saluddin and Nina Chaudhary first, British Army second, Saluddin and Nina Chaudhary third. Okay. Again, they beat the British Army by few hours, 39 days or 38 days or whatever. They used the Mitsubishi Lancer, or I think they used the Lancer the second time. First time they used the Contessa, Hindustan Contessa.
Lancer might not be there during those times.
There was. There was. They used a Mitsubishi car for sure. Okay. The first time was a Hindustan Contessa. Okay. British Army, I don't remember. There were 3 people. Saluddin again with his wife used a Mitsubishi. And then Naveen Kapila and his team from Delhi, 3 people. Okay. They did it again on a Contessa, beating Saluddin's record by a few hours. A record is one. You can't have multiple records. Right. Unfortunately, there was some litigation that came up from Mr. Saluddin's side, saying that I'm the first one to have done it. My name should be there. Okay. And whoever is the current record holder, you can maintain his name. Achha. Now, I believe that is wrong. I think you should acknowledge that there is somebody better than you who have done it better planning. I mean, it's all about planning and your luck. And if you're trying to beat a record by a few hours, it is nothing but sheer determination that I need to break that guy's record. I mean, there's only one Carl Lewis. But if somebody beats his record, there will be a Carl Lewis somewhere in the records, but his name will never be there as the fastest man on the world.
Always the top one comes.
Exactly. Now we all talk about Usain Bolt. Are we talking about Carl Lewis as much as we talk about Usain Bolt? No. So let's face it that there is always a better person than you. You enjoy your glory as long as you are there. But if somebody tries to, better your record, acknowledge, yes boss, great, lovely. And that's the way to move forward. So Guinness didn't want to get into the litigation. They completely took off that record category. So if you go back into Guinness Book of World Records, there isn't this category which says that the first and the fastest to go around the world, the current record, because they brought in a clause saying that you are driving on public roads. Why couldn't they think about it before? Because you are definitely driving on a public road. You cannot avoid doing 1,000 miles on back roads of any country and still be the fastest around the world, right? So the second part of this one, the litigation and Guinness Guinness taking off that, I didn't realize that because I was so head on into preparing my journey. 91 when Baman, after 10 days of coaxing him, when he said, okay, let's do it. And then there was no looking back.
This is Deepak, should be around 93 or something?
91. I'm still in 91. In 91, there were 3 attempts by these guys to go around the world. 91 is when I said, okay, let's do it around the world in 60 days on the ESD Road King. That's when, my focus to, divert all my effort and energy. How should I start? So it all starts with maps.
Right.
And I reached out to some good friends in the US. I reached out to the American Automobile Association. They were kind enough to send me all the maps.
How do you used to reach them, Deepak, at that time?
Post. There was no, we had fax. I must say we had fax. But unfortunately, what I've seen is communication is one-sided in my country. But when it comes to communication with Europe or the US, the communication is pretty fast. Even my communication with the Guinness Book of World Records, they charge you for communication because, there are billions of people reaching out to the Guinness saying that मेरे को ये record करना है, मेरे को वो record करना है. किन को करते रहेंगे. So they said, boss, form fill करो, you charge, you pay us this processing fee, we'll come back to you with which is fine. Right. So at least you are sure that फालतू वक्त नहीं खराब कर रहे हो किसी का. American Automobile Association sent me maps, and I had already done 2 rides with my partner Baswaraj. He was my go-to mechanic, a service engineer for me on the ESD. And ESD is one of the most easiest motorcycle. You can strip the bike in the middle of nowhere and then build it back again without any loss in time. So Baswaraj being the brains behind the mechanics, I told him, you work closely with the R&D guys in ESD and build a machine that should not fail. That's your responsibility. I will take care of everything else. The route, the sponsors, the logistics. Any nightmare is mine. You sit with these guys and just... Plus, I must confess that, our friendship even today is as strong as it was in those days. I might not be able to say the same thing with the current gen. It is very difficult because the wavelengths are so different and everybody wants to have their hands and feet into everything. That makes it a little difficult. There can be only one leader. And others must say, yes, we'll do that. There is a room for deliberation, but the decision is unilateral and it will be of the leader. And that's how we have, Baswaraj and me have really kind of maintained our friendship.
But then Deepak, you both riding on one motorcycle, was it really comfortable at that point of time?
Well, we didn't have a budget. Let's be honest. I'll not bring out figures of sponsorships here because, as I said,
But would you be able to say that what was the kind of expenses you had?
16 lakhs is what I said.
16 lakhs?
Lakhs around the world in 47 days. We did it in 47 days, by the way. 42,000 kilometers in 47 days, and the start to finish was 119 days. And 119 days, the first 17 to 21 days was lost in India because my country had plague. If you go back to 1994, October, Surat had plague. And remember, we are talking about 1991. The build and the preparation took up to 94. I neutralized 93 because I lost my mom then. But 91 and 92, a neutralized year of 93, and October 94 is when we started.
Okay.
This was all the preparation because I had burnt my finger once back in 1989 when I took my cycle and wanted to do a round the world on a cycle. And then I realized the shortcomings of an Indian passport. The blue passport was very suspiciously looked at. And I've had instances where I was deboarded from a train from Zagreb, the erstwhile Yugoslavia, and transiting into Trieste in Italy. I was made to get off the train. This is 1989. I may be going back in time. I mean, juggling between the years.
Right.
But if I have to emphasize, the blue passport was one of the most notoriously suspicious passport. Because unfortunately, I know of people, let me tell you, I know of people who have taken their cycle out of this country as a pretext of cycling around the world and have discarded the cycle and have settled abroad. It is a situation that they created which impacted a lot of travelers. Now, I had no intention of settling in any country around the world. There are better countries than my country, but we have a special bondage with us, with friends, with people, family, various reasons, lifestyle, happy with what we are. But going back to 1989, when I was made to, get off the train, I realized that what have we done with ourselves? And there are people who have brought a name to our country, which is not in the right frame of mind. But if I have to fast forward to 2021, when I rode across the African continent, I could clearly see the power of the blue passport. Even for that matter, when I did the Polar Odyssey from the Arctic to the Antarctic, the power of the blue passport. I mean, the PR that our late External Affairs Minister, Ms. Sushma Swaraj has done is phenomenal. I mean, I am politically apolitical. I am not in favor of any, but let's face it that the current government over its tenure has changed dramatically a way the world looks at our country. Today, when I place my passport at any of the immigration counter, there's a lot of respect. There's a lot of discussion that happens.
So much of it has changed so much.
It is dramatically changed. Dramatically changed. So much to say that, again, I must say I'm absolutely apolitical. But the instances that I came across is something that I wish to narrate. I had that picture of me standing alongside our late then Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. That was always in my passport. So that was whether the immigration officer wanted to see my passport or not, he would definitely see the picture with the Prime Minister.
Right.
And when I was in Trieste, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi had lost his powers. He was no longer the Prime Minister.
Okay.
That picture held no value.
No value at that point of time.
At that point of time.
Right.
So, more suspicions.
Right.
And then my visa to Italy was issued in Egypt. Thanks to the Indian ambassador's intervention, my visa to Italy was issued in Egypt. So I was asked to deboard the train. I was their guest for about 36 hours. I mean, not behind bars, but in their office. And then I later realized, because I called off my cycling trip from Rome,
so
and
the
I flew back to India.
The cycling trip was from India. So you
I cycled from Bangalore to Bombay, and I flew into Kenya.
Okay.
And this is where my logistical planning was a
89.
failure. 89, yeah. I didn't realize that you cannot cycle from Kenya into Sudan into Egypt.
Okay.
So I landed in Kenya. I went around Nairobi. I went around so many places in Kenya.
Right.
The good folks at the Indian Embassy, the good folks at HMT, Mission Tooling Division, they were there. We were hosted by Kannada-speaking families.
Okay.
And I realized that we can't cycle. And when I say we, I came across a similar-minded cyclist wanting to cycle out of the country in the Prime Minister's office, the then Prime Minister's office. So we teamed up together for a start. But then I realized that, he's a hardcore vegetarian. And we landed in Kenya the first day. We walk into Nairobi. I mean, we ride into cycle from the airport to Nairobi, and we look at which hotel to go. We saw a small shack, a nice, decent looking shack. And I'm a non-vegetarian. I said, like, I'll take chicken and rice. And he didn't know what. He said, okay, I'll take bread and jam.
Okay.
So the minute I got my chicken and rice, I started using the fork and knife to cut the chicken. And there was literally some blood in it. The chicken was not really cooked. And this guy sitting in front of me literally threw up.
Oh shit.
This guy, I cut the chicken and I could see the blood. He saw the blood. He started throwing up. Then onwards, Kenya, Africa, that's a staple diet. You can't complain about food. Right. You are there for a reason. You need to keep your home at home. You can't go to a country and say, "Mere ko idli vada sambar chahiye, mere ko ye chahiye, roti chahiye." But of course, thankfully there was a Gurudwara in Nairobi, and we had many meals in the langar there. But by then I realized this man is not making it. And he flew back home from he flew back from Nairobi, and I told Mr. Shiv Shankar. Mr. Shiv Shankar was the director of HMT Tools in 1989. His family. I said, sir, I need your help to get me a visa to Egypt. The biggest problem I did was I didn't plan my trip, and I didn't realize what are the visas, the documentation that I would need. I thought एक country में जाएगा, वहाँ से दूसरा country के लिए लेगा, वहाँ से दूसरा country के लिए लेगा. But the challenge is with an Indian passport, there are several setbacks. I'm talking about 1989, not today. So Sudan said, no, you can't cycle because of the gorilla problem. So that put me in a spot in Kenya. I don't have an exit out. It has to be a flight out into Egypt. So Mr. Shiv Shankar and the Indian embassy and the kind Indian folks out there helped me get a ticket, and I flew into Egypt. Egypt, I realized I can't get into Libya. So there again, like the Indian embassy spoke to the Indian guys, Indian people there. They put me on a flight from Egypt into Greece, hoping that is my gateway into the Europe. And the Indian ambassador helped me get my Greece visa, a transit Bulgaria, a transit Yugoslavia, and an Italian visa. Right. I thought, I have a friend in Italy, I'm going to stay there and then work myself for the other. And those days there was no Schengen visa. You're talking about individual visas for every country. Right. And then, these guys are really strict in those days. I had a blue passport. How many days would you be traveling through my country? 5 to 6 days. Okay, a week-long visa is what you will get as a transit. Okay, done. Those were the days where you had to be very clear in your communication. My English was not that great. Not that, most of the Europeans speak any good English, but then I cycled around Egypt and then went to Cairo. And from Cairo, I boarded a flight to Athens. And from Athens, I cycled across Thessaloniki. And that's where I realized that two Indians who were before me had cooked up a similar story between Athens and Thessaloniki. And Rotary Club. I was being supported by the Rotary Club here. And when I reached out to the Rotary Club, I said, even if we want to help, we don't want to help Indians. That left a shocker of a statement in my mind. Right. Because they said they were robbed in Athens, and then they went to Thessaloniki. They said between Athens and Thessaloniki they were robbed again. And how much time does it take for 2 weekly reports to be shared between the Rotary clubs? Right. Not that they had any internet in those days, but their weekly report or their magazines to flow between, we helped Indians because they were robbed. These guys also, we helped Indians because... They also said the same thing. Kya ho gaya? The experience. And I know these guys. These both guys are, one is in Canada and one is in the US today. Okay. They've just kind of... Thessaloniki, I said, I'm not here for money. If you're able to help me with an accommodation, great. Otherwise, I have a tent which was given to me by President Emeritus H.C. Sarin of the Indian Mountaineering Federation. I pitched my tent at the, I crossed Thessaloniki, went towards Bulgaria. Bulgaria was an Iron Curtain country back in those days, and they would shut down the border by 6 in the evening. And I was much later after that, and I pitched my tent. I exited the Greece immigration. I pitched my tent in a no man's land and waited for the next morning. Tied my cycle to a tree, pitched my tent. I slept. Next day morning, I see my lock is there. My cycle is missing. My cycle was stolen at the Greece-Bulgaria border. I didn't realize what to do. I went back to the Greece immigration, lodged a complaint. Boss, yesterday I exited with my cycle. Today my cycle is not there. I went into Bulgarian immigration. I said, I came on a cycle. I don't have a cycle. So the root of suspicion is like your communication. Right. I mean, if you're not very fluent in explaining, I mean, they don't understand English. And with whatever broken English, I could say, managed to get into Bulgaria, went to Sofia, met His Excellency Mr. Girish Dhumbe, who was the ambassador of India to Bulgaria. He connected me to few Indians with whom I stayed. I'm trying to figure out what next, because नाम के लिए तो साइकिल एक्सपीडिशन है, मेरे पास तो साइकिल ही नहीं है. तो देन आई टोल्ड हिज एक्सेलेंसी दैट आई हैव अ फ्रेंड इन बोलोनिया. I will try to reach out to her, and probably I'll pick up a cycle in Italy, because Italy is a land of cycles. I kind of then from Bulgaria I took a train to Zagreb, the erstwhile Yugoslavia, and went around the nearby places in Zagreb. Came back to the railway station. My pocket was picked, lost about $110.
Okay.
Took a ticket to Bologna, and I got on the board. I boarded a train to Bologna via Trieste. That's the border. Now the wall between the East European and West European. The Europe considers itself like the Eastern Europeans are like thoda. I mean, they are relatively, when it comes to the economy wise, they are relatively little lower than the Western European countries. Right. So Italy is a kind of a gateway, because a lot of people try to infiltrate the borders into the West European through this gate. So I was made to get off the train. My passport was checked. Why did you get your visa in Italy? Visa of Italy to in Egypt. So I explained the whole story, and then suspicion was still not cleared. They said, "Would you please wait?" Train गया. जो जिस गाड़ी में मैं बैठा था वो ट्रेन निकल गया.
अच्छा.
I said, train, no worries, बैठो. Then I realized, and then I'll tell you later what happened. 36 hours I was there. 36 hours later they put me on another train, and I reached Bologna. My friend, she had got married and gone to UK for a honeymoon. Missed that. So from there I went to Rome. I reached out to Air India, who were my ticketing sponsors. I said, I want to go back home. I have my London ticket, New York, which has been issued. Right. Can you please convert this to Rome, Bombay? I want to go back home.
Okay.
Not out of fear, but out of frustration, because my planning was totally screwed up. Right. I had no vision as to what I want to do. My finances were running out. People were helping, but to what extent should I be asking? Right. Can I do something on my own? Right. I can't, because money, expenses. Europe is expensive, and weather, no proper gear, cycle nahi hai. How can I convince people that I want to cycling when I don't have a cycle? Same. So I said, let's go back. I came back home. Then mom says, where were you? Police आया था घर पे. क्यों आया था? Then I realized those 36 hours, the Italian immigration there had reached out to Italian embassy in Cairo. Cairo had reached out to Ministry of External Affairs. Ministry of External Affairs had reached out to Rajajinagar police station, or the Commissioner's office in Bangalore. They went to the Rajajinagar police station. Rajajinagar police constable came home. Knock, knock. Does Deepak Kamath stay here? And the same protocol back. That's 36 hours of verification.
But आजकल ऐसे होता है?
आजकल तो like it matter of seconds. Your passport is so digitized that the entire data is there, and like there are footprints of where all you have traveled. Today,
but does that suspicious thing is still there?
No. I mean, I carry my 6 passports. My first passport. I mean, you'll see my passports here.
Okay.
From the first passport, this is the first passport. I carry 6 of my passports. Okay. And deliberately I keep all my 6 passports there. So there is no room for any kind of suspicion, because I'm a road traveler. I mean, when I'm going across by flight into the US, and when I land in Dallas, I keep 2 or 3 passports together, and then we get into a healthy conversation. The immigration officer is asking me all kinds of questions related to my travel. It is never suspicion. There is, I mean, we find one common place that we have traveled, and उसके बारे में 10 मिनट बात कर सकते हैं. पीछे वाला सोच रहा होगा, हाँ भैया इसको रगड़ रहा है, अभी इसको वापस भेजेगा, इसको डिपोर्ट हो जाएगा. And then like we shake hands and we move on. I mean today I believe our country has got a name in itself. It is nothing like in those days.
Right, that's true.
But we survived those days. I mean, for me, like when I did my round the world trip 1994, I literally had to barge into the ambassador's office in Chennai for my US visa. I was branded as an intended alien. I have a reject stamp on my passport. Because in those days, it was not a reject. There used to be a small round seal on the passport, on the last page of the passport for your first attempt. In case your visa is rejected, there is a small round seal that is stamped on your passport. And you have 2 attempts to put across your appeal. The third appeal is always by post, which means you will never get into that country for at least some X number of years, whatever. When my first rejection came in, I was 24. I mean, they had every reason to reject me. I mean, young guy, without a job, no property, no family to hold me back, not married. I mean, and
get settled.
And in those days, there was a lady who was very famous for her rejections. 80 on 100 applications, she used to reject. And everybody, अरे अगर वो मिल गई ना तो गया काम से वो ही मिल गई हमको. And she started asking some questions to Basuraj, who was standing right behind me. I told her, he does not speak English. Not that I'm speaking any great English. वो English बात नहीं करता है. No, sir, can you please hold on? Let him speak for himself. उसको भी रिजेक्ट डाल के भेज दिया क्योंकि वो कुछ बोल नहीं रहा था, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा था इसका. Then that evening, and that was I was riding my project bike, the MEY 3442 SD Road King, which has been meticulously prepared for the round the world trip. It was a trip to Chennai, Madras, to the US Embassy to get the visas. I was so confident. I think, sometimes you need to lower your expectations and not be overconfident. And I was there. Very confident that, US mil jayega. We have to show them rest of the world's ka visa. So 14 or 15 countries ka visa ho chuka tha. The first one was Germany. I don't know for what reason. I mean, I went to the German consulate in Chennai. No questions asked. I mean, ESD, Mr. Tempton Irani had given a nice letter that, we are supporting this. A typical sponsorship letter. Then we got Castrol also on board. We got Timex and the works of it. So they all had given their letters and no problem. Germany came. Germany के बाद UK came. UK के बाद France आ गया, Italy आ गया, Cairo आ गया, South America में Brazil आया, Argentina आया, Colombia था. No Colombia. Brazil था because we were to land in Brazil. And then Australia bhi tha. Australia was very easy. I mean, all the countries was based on the sponsorship letters. And then finally, गाड़ी तैयार हो गया, चलो ट्रायल के लिए चेन्नई चलते हैं. तो मद्रास चलते हैं. तो मद्रास पहुंचे. We were number 3 in the queue because in those days people used to get in to the consulate at 2 in the morning. There was nothing like a token system. So first in the queue goes there. It's not like in today's thing. So we reached by around 4:15, riding through the night from Mysore to Madras, and we were still number 3 or 4 in the queue. हम लोग गए, चलो आज हो जाएगा. We went in there and we got that lady, and lady said no. परेशान हो गए. 10 बजे सुबह से कुछ खाए भी नहीं क्योंकि 4 बजे से बाहर है वहाँ पे. And then I immediately went to a phone booth and called up Mr. Tempton. I'm coming because we see a challenge. So वहाँ से सीधा मद्रास से मैसूर. Next day morning, sitting in Mr. Tempton's office, we sent a fax. Mr. Tempton included his comments, and then I took that letter. I mean, he's standing guarantee now. That as an entity, as a company, they are standing guarantee that we know these boys and these boys are going to come back. And that was faxed to the Chennai Madras consulate. And next day morning we are there. So yesterday we were in the Chennai. Today we are in Mysore. Tomorrow morning again we are there. Tomorrow morning we were number 7 or 8. We were little late. And then we went in. And then we realized, जो second time applications है, उनका interview 4 बजे के बाद. So we are there since 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening, 12 hours, nothing to eat. And bete, we went to the visa officer, and thankfully in those days, if one officer has rejected you previously, he or she will not look at your papers the second time.
That's a good thing.
So second time jab gaye the, we got probably a very young guy, probably within his 30s.
Achha.
He's munching away his burger, he's looking at our papers. I said, sir, my English was still bad. I was definitely not as good as what I am today. I told him what I intended to tell was, you please give me my visa.
Okay.
I'm in your country for 30 days. This is my plan. Give me the visa for 30 days, please. Else, I want an audience with your ambassador right now. Otherwise, I'm not getting out of this place. That is what I wanted to communicate, and I may have, and we have sent a fax giving the complete details. He pulled out the fax. There's so many scribbles on it. Comments. Pata nahi kahan gaya hai. And then he said, no, we've got this request to pull that fax, and we'll give you the least, which is 3 months. I said, thank you. And as per my plan, US was 30 days. 31st day, I was flying out of Miami International Airport.
Okay.
But we got delayed in Europe because of rains and, Surat plague. My bike reached late. So everything added to the delay. And then I reached out to Guinness in between saying that, we are delayed. They said, maintain your logbook. Even then, they had not cancelled that entry.
Okay.
The communication was that you maintain your logbook. Right. Your day riding is what matters. Ek din mein kya kriya? You have to be meticulous. I still have a copy of that book.
Right.
1994. Around the world, 42,000 kilometers, 47 days, 119 days in all. And we got featured in the Limca Book of World Records as world record. And I don't remember anybody. And this is a statement I wish to make, that as Indians, with the blue passport, overcoming every hurdle that we could possibly imagine, communication, you name it, we were there. Facing that, putting everything aside, and still managed to do what we wanted to do. 1994. Google was born in 1997. Nick Sanders, who currently holds the record for the fastest around the world, did his first one in 1997 or 1998. Okay. So 1994, 95, if somebody's done anything, I should be enlightened about it. But then, we had our own charm. We had, the 119 days. You take off 47 days where it was hardcore riding. The maximum that we did in a day, in those days, was 1,645 kilometers in 17 days. I have that record. It's a book maintained record for that particular day. So
how many hours in a day you
17 days. Since we are on a record making spree, I might sound as a hypocrite because I've done what I wanted to do, but now I tell people, guys, slow down. Enjoy the world. For me, it's experience speaking. You need to look at what is it that you want to do. Now, take for example, when I led a team across the American continents, starting from Anchorage to the Arctic Ocean, and then getting across into Canada, going up to the Arctic Ocean into Tuktoyaktuk, and then coming down to Vancouver, and then hopping across into Montana, cutting across into New York, coming back to San Francisco, going down all the way to Cabo San Lucas, and then taking a ferry across into Topolobampo in mainland Mexico, and then hooking up on the Pan American Highway all the way down to Ushuaia, which gave me about 51,000 kilometers.
Right.
And 99 days of riding. People laughed at me. I said, why do you want to laugh at me? 99 days, I've seen what I want to see. And you may have a different flavor to travel. You may want to slow down. So be it. 99 days is still a long time. I understand there are sponsors' commitments, but all my sponsors have listened to me. It is always my way. It's never been the sponsors' way. And I believe that has made me who I am, because sponsors have believed in me, and they know they'll get what they want, and I know what I want. And this is exactly when I tell people, I share my dreams on a PowerPoint presentation. I put the brand first because I want to take your brand across these countries.
Absolutely.
That's really important. Unfortunately, today, people put their stupid ideas first. It is never about the brand.
Right.
Put the brand to a test, probably the brand will sit up and listen to you. And I think, for me, my last 3 rides have been on the Bajaj Dominar.
Right.
but my foundation with the SD remains so solid that it has given me a platform to speak about my travels back in days when Google was not even born. Now that was fun. And you imagine sitting in a cockpit of a Boeing 737 of an Air India flight that's taking you across Heathrow to New York. Can you imagine doing that today? Can you imagine even having a peek into the cockpit?
Right.
It's a no-go. You can't even peep in. Before boarding starts, the pilots are locked.
True.
And imagine, I'm sitting in the cockpit, I'm talking to the Air India hostesses who are beautifully draped in their saris. I'm talking to Commander Menezes. I'm sitting in the seat which is reserved for the senior-most air hostess, just in case of a panic situation, just in case the commander has any issues. She's the one who sits there. And she's actually sitting in my seat, and I'm sitting in her seat at the time when the Boeing 737 is landing in the JFK.
Right.
Can anybody have these kind of experiences?
I don't think so.
And can you imagine how would I have sent my motorcycle, which came in as an accompanied baggage?
I think it came on the
conveyor belt.
That,
a lot of people, find it so hard to believe. Boss,
do you have a
we've been
photo
there,
of
done
it?
that. Boss, you are in the immigration zone.
You can't do it.
And when you are moving through the green channel, I can hear the immigration officers say, only you Indians can do it. In the most sarcastic manner. And in the same tone, I tell him, you bet. I was an intended alien into that country. And can you imagine the kind of...
Right. So the whole motorcycle came on a conveyor
How
belt.
big is a motorcycle? It's not like the 1200s or, like...
still it's big for a...
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, see, we didn't have any panniers or, if you see my bike, it's somewhere here. Just bags. The whole bike is a little small one, like probably 3 suitcases large. And, I was given an opportunity to take the motorcycle, put it in the luggage section.
Okay. आप मुझे ये बताइए कि आपका जो है आर्मस्ट्रॉन्ग वो बहुत जगह पे आप मतलब लगा के रखते हो. मेन आपका जो बाइक्स की नाम भी आप उसी से देते हो, राइट?
नहीं, बाइक्स का नाम को आई हैव नेवर नेम्ड माय बाइक्स because they were all 3442s.
Right,
so I made a conscious decision that when I'm prepping my machine for an adventure, it will run with a 3442.
Right.
Every
so
bike.
All the bikes you get.
All the bikes are 3442. Like 3442 may not hold any relevance from a numerological standpoint, from a number standpoint. But I go back to 1989 when my mom gifted me a SD Model B, which was MEY 3442.
First bike was gifted?
Yeah, first bike, because she said 10th standard में अच्छा marks लाओ, घड़ी नहीं तो छड़ी. So घड़ी नहीं चाहिए मेरे को, लेकिन मेरे को आप एक bike दे दो. So initially she got me a Bajaj Chetak CKQ 2436. So and then the advent and onslaught of 100cc machines का आ गया. हीरो होंडा आ गया, Yamaha RX 100 ऑथेंटिक का ब्रोशर में पकड़ के लेके आया मम्मी के पास. मैंने बोला मेरे को मम्मी ये चाहिए. She said that was about 18,000 in those days.
Okay.
RX 100 when it was initially launched. So she said, let me take you to my colleague, see if you like that bike. So she took me to her colleague, Mr. Ratnakar Kamath, and then he had his Model B, which had I'm not sure how much it had run, but he said 8,000 rupees. But it was modified, he had taken off the dome headlight, and he had put a little modified, and it looked really nice. I said, Mom, done. So 8,000 mein, I think she paid 8,000 rupees for that, and we got it registered to me. MEY 3442 was born for me.
So from there it all
started. There, I reached out to SD, they did up my machine. I did Bangalore to Srinagar to Sonmarg, after which the roads were blocked. Came back from Sonmarg to Varanasi to Kathmandu to Hyderabad to Bangalore. Did about 10,380 kilometers in about 17 days. That was the first long trip. And then I came back and told Mr. Tempton Irani that unfortunately we went this way. I would now really want to try going from Kanyakumari, 0 level, to Khardungla via the Manali route.
Okay.
And they gave me a R&D machine, CNA 267. on which I did the 267 hours and 11,180 kilometers. And after that, MEY the 3442 was for the 1994. So I moved my Model B back into the company, and we etched the same number plate because we needed to have the motorcycle in my name.
Okay.
From a carnet de passage. Yeah. I mean, I got the carnet then. I got the Model B moved in, and the project bike MEY 3442 came out as a ESD Road King.
Okay.
So the switch happened then. And then once I finished my ride, Baman said, we would like to keep that bike in our museum, and I'll give you a new bike. So the original machine that went around the world was given back to the company, and Baman gave me a new ESD Road King. Unfortunately, in those days, 94 and 95, I used to work with them for about a year and a half, before which Baman called and said, I think you should move on because company was not doing great. So I think in February 1996, I think they shut down for good, and the rest is now I think there's some apartment standing in the land where earlier the Ideal Java used to be there. I mean, I get pretty nostalgic. I mean, it's I spent so much of time with the people between 1990 to 1996. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have literally worked there for their entire lives there, right? I mean, it was a very sad story when, that was the advent of Facebook most recently. Recently in the time, whenever Facebook came, people started pouring pictures of the company in completely in a dilapidated way, cobwebs and spider webs and entire tanks and engines, and there's a picture of the original 3442, the round the world trip 3442 was also there. Yeah, but somebody's taken it. I mean, news is there. I mean, who's got it? But I don't know why people don't want to bring it out, because that's the only two-stroke in the world to have done what it's done. So I mean, it's in all its glory. It should be presented to the world. I mean, I don't want to claim it. I don't want it, but tell the world that this is the SD Road King that went around the world in 47 days. I mean, that's a momentous feat that the machine achieved, right? Coming to Armstrong, yes, when the social media was just about, I mean, literally, now you need to be there in that space. I mean, even if you don't want to blow your own trumpet, which I don't, and people, for you to be identified. I mean, instead of Deepak Kamath, I said, okay, let me bring in the adventures of Armstrong. And why would I do that? Because I followed two Armstrongs. One is Neil Armstrong. He landed on the moon in 1969. That's the year of my birth. It's a very, a momentous year for humanity, right? Having placed a human on moon.
Right.
So that was 1969. I mean, you think of the unachievable, and we've done it.
Right.
Yeah. The next is Mr. Lance Armstrong. Keeping aside all his drug scandals and whatever he has been deprived of the Tour de France wins, he still is a go-getter. Even after a testicular cancer, I mean, the way he bounced back, and he's got that never say die attitude in him, and which is something that we all should have. We all should appreciate people who really give it the max out in them to achieve what they want to. And I think he's there. So bringing the two Armstrongs together, I thought, okay, fine, let me go by the identity of the adventures of Armstrong. That's the Armstrong. Of course, I sat with a designer friend. I said, okay, I need to design something that is very unique. So we pulled out some pictures from the net, and we did some mix and match and colors. Oh, I like this. Okay, let's close it.
So Deepak, you did all these kind of trips in the segment of like 400 or 300 or those kind of segments, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever felt that a bigger bike could have done better?
See, Bulu, I got back into the world of travel after a 20-year hiatus.
So
from
we
1996.
also like to understand why that gap.
Exactly. So 1996 to 2015, nobody knew where Deepak Kamath was.
Right.
When I came back from round the world trip in 1995, February 8th, and when YesD hosted me in Lee Meridian Hotel in Bangalore, I'm not sure what it is now.
Just one question, but are you married that time?
No, I'm not. But I made sure I married, and I still managed to take my wife on my trips. Like she came with me in the US leg. She was with me in my, I was actually coming to that, after a 20-year hiatus,
right,
from 1996 till 2015. That is the time I dedicated to the family.
Right.
I mean, this is very important for people to realize.
Absolutely.
That no matter what your passion is, once you get married, the focus and the commitment changes. So if you're able to understand this value, we celebrated 25 years at Cape Aguilas in 2021, December 2nd. My wife and me were at Cape Aguilas, which is the southernmost tip of the African continent, before I started my ride across the continent of Africa and Europe.
And this was during COVID time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we landed on the 23rd of, I think you also sent me a message that, there is a new variant of COVID that is popping out.
Yes.
So 23rd we landed, the world woke up to Omicron on the 24th of November 2021, and 2026 we were desperately waiting for the president of South Africa to make a decision. And thankfully he maintained status quo. No regions were blocked. So inter-regional travel was still permitted because there was a memorandum of understanding signed in Geneva in October of 2021 that all travelers who wish to travel cross borders should be vaccinated twice, and you should have a RT-PCR test done before at least 20R or 21, whatever that norm was. And if you have that, you are free to travel. And hence our government was doing so much of effort to get vaccination, and in case people are traveling, that second boost, so that RT-PCR is done, and everything was in place. And when we landed there, we realized that the rest of the Western world had shut down the 5 countries, which is South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Namibia, were shut down from the rest of the world. And that's the time, November, December is peak summertime for them. That's peak travel. And just after 2 years of COVID shutdown, that world was just opening up. And suddenly it was shut down. I mean, the kind of pathetic situation that I've come across on the road opens our eyes even further as to what have we as humans learned. Is there a line that we have drawn to restrict ourselves from doing what we should not? We have not learned that at all. What has COVID taught us? We've had a great life yesterday. We are living today, having a chat with you, sitting in our home and enjoying the best things that life could provide us. How many of us have seen tomorrow? None. So what's the rush, man? Slow down. What's the rush in building a bank balance that you may never be able to use? Slow down. Enjoy life. I mean, some people ask me, do you work? I said, I used to work. And for 20 years of my corporate career, I've slogged like a horse. I put in my best time, my best thing to build a family, a lifestyle that I'm really proud of. We wanted our daughter to be in the best of the universities. We've shaped her career. And that's exactly what we had dreamt of 20 years back.
This house also, no?
Exactly.
That is the time.
20 years back when she was born, we framed a career for her, and we are there. And that's what we are really happy about. And now in case I say I'm not working anymore, people think, oh, boss, I have enough to live my life. Kiske piche kyun bhagna hai bhai?
So this 20 years you were like totally busy.
Totally. I was riding a kinetic Honda because when SD shut down, I realized that my fuel economy, I was struggling. We were almost bankrupt. I was in one of the worst phases of my life. But thankfully my wife stood by my side, and we came up. We made sure that we did not lose sight of our focus as to what we wanted to do as a family. Daughter was born in 98, and then she went into the best of studies. We focused. I worked with different organizations until I joined a financial institution here in Bangalore. Worked with them for 12 years, and they said, you need to relocate to Hyderabad. I said, boss, I'm not married to work. That is a very bold statement I made to the HR president. I said, boss, I'm not married to work. And I came back home, I said, the 17th of Jan 2017 is my last working day. That's it. So I've not been working in 2017, but I believe I've seen the best and best of the world over. Today I sit here, Bulu, telling you 79 international border crossings on my motorcycle across all the 7 continents. And I don't even know how many kilometers I've done. I mean, that's of least importance
Still,
to me.
Deepak, if I would like to ask, throughout your life, how many kilometers you would have done? Just one.
About 500,000-600,000 kilometers, Bulu. And this is actual travel. It's not like, sabji leke aao, ye leke aao, wo sab nahi. I mean, I've really put in a lot of travel, and this includes my car as well, because I drive a lot. I mean, one should understand, travel can be by any means. It can be cycling, it can be trekking, hiking, train, plane, car, bike, whatever. I mean, as long as that you are happy doing what you want. Now for me, like I'm not a guy who would want to sit in a train. But there are people who say, like I would like to take a train from here to there and from there to there I'll drive. So be it.
A lot of people
it's okay.
do, yeah.
It's your call.
A lot of people also trek. And
exactly.
They also
I mean, I'm not a trekking guy because, my wife and me, we trek to Paro. And you've been there, the Tiger's Nest. I mean, like we are wearing a motorcycle boot, motorcycle trouser, jacket, helmet, like climbing up all that
I
vertical.
just saw it, I said, no, I'm okay, I'll be here. I asked my friend to go, I said, I'll be here.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've been there, done that is what I'm trying to tell you. And 2015, when our daughter moved to her boarding in Chennai, and the Benelli guys were doing a road show of all the machines that they were planning to launch, that 300, 600i and 600 GT. I really loved the 600i. Technically, a beautiful
adventure motorcycle.
No, it was not an adventure.
No,
it was a street bike.
Stances like
it was a street Italian machine, beautiful machine.
You're talking about the I think.
600i. And then, they were here in, the ex-BHP guys were doing this road show.
Right.
And I went to this Ramji in Atibele, a few kilometers from here. And I took my wife because I was 600i, like the budget was all done, 7.1 lakh or 6 point whatever. So we went there and I looked at machine in blood and flesh. Shit, this is not what I want. This is a boys machine. And I've outgrown that machine. And then in the corner, and these guys are really not promoting that, the GT was standing.
GT was there.
Wow. Now that is it what I want.
Right.
लेकिन इसमें और उसमें
प्राइस डिफरेंस है,
1.5 लाख का फर्क है भाई. एंड पैनियर्स एंड लुकिंग टूरिंग मशीन के लिए. सो माय वाइफ सेड ये लो 2 लाख,
लेट्स बाय इट,
go buy it, because if not now when. This was their statement, if not now when. So 2015 June we went to Benelli, Bangalore, and we got the bike, and we've toured almost about 55,000 kilometers.
Okay.
And she would have joined me in about 35,000 kilometers as my pillion. So on the first ride we went to Arunachal Pradesh and Bhutan. On taking a U-bend, I dropped. I dropped her and this girl fell like a sack. And then, of course, we need to be very transparent that for a country like ours, and the roads and the jackasses that we have on road, and to add to it the cattle, the dogs, and we are still a country which is at least a decade or two back when it comes to the European highways or the US highways, where at least there is management of barricadation. The barricades are pretty well done on your highways. Right. We are not there yet. Even in case we are there, because the highways are built on what was earlier. A farmland.
It passes through villages.
Exactly. So the villagers still claim that even though they would have sold that land to the national government,
they claim it is our property.
And then they break the barricade, and we are not there. So let's face it that for a country like ours, the big bikes hold zero value.
That's true.
Let me assure you, anything beyond 400cc is a luxury my country does not need. And this is a statement I wish to, and I'm happy to deliberate. How many people are actually enjoying buying a bigger machine in my country?
That's true.
How many people, like the likes of the 1200s, and how many people have actually put in a 5-figure miles on that?
No, I think most of them, they do actually breakfast rides.
Exactly, coffee day, and then they go like idiots. And then because of those idiots, the rest of the community suffers.
That's true.
I know of people who do this Hoskote ride, and that they just open up the 4 cylinders. Yes. Why do you want to overspeed? Globally, okay, Bulu, to your point, why have I been choosing a lower cc machine? You need to travel. You need to slow down. I know I have done 1,000 kilometers, but I know it's a transport section for me. Right. I ride long hours to reach a point. But once I reach a point, I slow down.
Slow down, yes.
And even on the highways, you are comfortably maintaining it about say 80 to 100, 110. That's a safe zone. Right. Wherein, you can control the missile. Yes, right? But people who are really doing 200s and 300s and putting it up on the social media, they should be just put behind bars.
Absolutely.
Getting their licenses cancelled is not the thing. Take the next step. put them behind bars, share their profile on social media and tell them this guy was doing high speeds, this is the action taken by the traffic department. Bring in fear. Unfortunately, I always tell people you should not have fear, but speed should have fear.
Absolutely. Recently, we have come across a lot of motorcyclists. They are like riding very fast, and then some of them also passed away in accidents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have known of people who have passed away in that, and odd hours. If you are riding in the dark, you are not seeing anything.
Right.
You are putting your life at risk.
Also
Particularly in my country, any ride after 6 is a challenge. Trust me, it is not safe at all.
That's true.
Not from a point where people will attack you or anything. No, my
Because
country
you
is
can't-
still the
visibility
safest.
is,
I'm talking about cattle,
dog.
your light, and I don't know for what good reason. Everybody wants to use a high beam. I have some very powerful lights on my bike, but it is on a need to use basis. If I'm delayed in any point, and in case I'm riding in the dark, which I don't want to try and avoid, then I would want to switch on if needed to have a very clear vision in the night. But ideally, I would encourage the community or any traveler for that matter, unless and until there is a definite need for you to drive or ride in the dark, avoid.
It's better to avoid. Yeah. Sometimes it has also happened that I have to travel, but then I just step by, then I see a hotel, I just check in, because I know early morning I'll be doing it quite easier.
Correct.
Comparatively.
4:35 is a good start. Like the roads are clear. You really have all the entire road to yourself.
Right. Deepak, any scary moment that you have faced during your ride career, because you have ridden through so many countries, and especially obviously you know that the other countries might be safer on the highways at least.
Well, a question that I have been always asked is, you have traveled all around the world, have you ever been robbed? Would your question be very similar to that?
Yeah.
Scariness, yes, I'm scared of water. So I've had 2 instances where I believe has literally had my heart in my mouth situation. I'm going to tell you about that. But when it comes to being robbed, again, I'm not trying to downsize or downgrade my own country in any way. Of all the countries that I've traveled and I've been in different scenarios, I was almost mugged and robbed in my own country by the Manipur-Mizoram border. And I know the reason why, and the reason is that that region is heaven for drug traffickers to come in from the Myanmar area. And COVID had very strictly locked those borders, and young people, I'm talking about a very young boy in his 18s or 20s who literally, came up to me and said, give me 2,000 rupees or I'm going to report to the police that you're traveling in COVID. This was during my 4 corners of the ride when I was traveling in 2020.
Right. This was on the KTM 390 adventure? Yeah,
on the 390 adventure. Right. And when I crossed over from Manipur into Mizo, and I was finding my way to, I was at 6:30 and it was totally dark.
Right.
I went up there and I saw a boy. For me, you are a good man until you prove yourself otherwise.
Right.
So, and I think it's the best way to approach. That don't go with the perception. Right. And I'm going to tell you about that perception a little later. I went to this boy and said, I'm looking for a place to stay. Do you think you can help? And he said, he spoke in a local language to the other 2 friends that he was having. One was a little elderly, and they spoke in their local language. And he said, you can come home. And he took me to his home. I usually park my bike face front.
Okay.
It's always not in.
So while going,
it's easy. And he took me to his house and he showed me a cot and he said, you can sleep here. Everything seemed pretty neat. Okay. There was a little bit of a hot voice with his mom. But I thought, it's probably because I'm a traveler and she didn't want a traveler because COVID and, these were all very strict regions and I really had to pull a lot of strings for me to cross these borders. And I went there and I removed my shoes, took off my jacket and I slept. I said, I'll be off by 4 o'clock. By around 9:30, 10 o'clock, this guy with the 2 others, now totally there are 4 people, he woke me up and he said, give me money. I said, I'm happy to give you money. Can I give you 500? Or do you want me to buy you some groceries? He said, no, I want 2,000 rupees. I said, I don't see any reason why I should give you. No, the conversation went on a little. higher pitch. I thought this is not safe. And the elderly guy who was about 40, 45, he started speaking up. And he was like, like aggressive, wanting to hit me and all. So I immediately put on my shoes. As I was speaking, I put on my shoes. I grabbed my helmet. I grabbed my jacket and my tank bag. And I started walking out. This guy started holding me back. I said, and this was almost about 400-500 meters from the main road. And it was a little up, and I just walked down, pitch darkness. I found, that's something that I do, I get my bearings where I am for the night, so that in case, you don't necessarily need to do it, but it's been a practice in my travels. So I went down, and when I parked my bike, I could hear a baby cry at the place where I had parked my bike. So I straight away ran down there, and I did that to that door. One wrestler kind of a guy came out. Started talking in क्यों दरवाजा खड़खड़ा रहे हो? I said, ये लोग मेरे पीछे पड़े हैं, खामखा पैसे मांग रहे हैं. I'm happy to give him 500. That's, I think it's reasonable for this world. But he's demanding 2,000, and I don't like the tone that he's talking. And this guy looked at him, and they started talking in the local language. And that 40-year-old guy pulled out a sharp, could be a knife or whatever. I don't know what to say. He pulled that out and started to come towards me. And this guy just grabbed this guy's neck, and he said, "Bhai sahab, aap yahan se niklo." That's it. I hopped, and I just accelerated. 10-15 kilometers later, I came across a police van. I said, I've had this challenge. Can you please guide me to a place where I can spend the night? So they took me to a village. They coordinated with some people, and they said, we have a quarantine house, but by 5 o'clock in the morning, you should go. I've made a nice experience about this, and that I think is on my YouTube. What I mean to tell here is, every country has these elements. It is not about my country, but unfortunately I had to face it in my own country, and I'm not trying to make a big issue out of it. Let's face it, today's youngsters, they want the luxuries of life without hard work.
That's the problem.
And unfortunately, people have lost that charisma or the effort that one should build in himself or herself, that hard work is what can take you places. And to add fuel to the fire, these gadgets are pretty luring for people to upgrade. And the likes of our Samsungs and Apples, they release a new model every year. So people want to upgrade, and the want is never ending.
And that pressure is helping.
And then COVID, so the income that used to be a flow due to drugs, that stopped. And trust me, when I went to the Myanmar border, I can feel it. There's a hand-in-glove arrangement with everybody there. Even though the borders are locked, I could still see plastic material being shipped from that side to this side. How is it going? It's going right underneath the official's nose. So am I wrong in saying that it is a hand-in-glove arrangement? So these are things, and in case I need to give you a drastic example of a completely developed world like Vancouver. And when my wife and we were there, the host there, they took us to the shorefront, and we had to cut across the core business district, and then there is a small pocket of area where we could see drug peddlers and drug addicts literally lying on the floor. So this is a area where can get notoriously dangerous in the evenings. And because we were driving, we drove past that area, and then we could still manage to see what we wanted to see. So if I have to give you a clear contrast, these elements, the so-called dangerous elements of the world, are there in every country. Now it is up to your intelligence and your conscious and your sensible thoughts that you should have. भाई मेरे को किधर क्या टाइम पे कहाँ जाना है.
सही बात.
And hence save time. 5 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You have 12 hours to see the world. See and come back home, peacefully stay in the place where you want to stay, enjoy your day, enjoy your evening, enjoy your time with your family and friends. Next day morning is a new day.
Absolutely.
Scary moments coming to that, I am scared of water. And when I had to cross between Cameroon into Nigeria
So this was
during the Afro-European Odyssey,
Acha,
2021.
Even for Road of Bones also, that time you had an experience.
Road of Bones, all the three of us did not know how to swim. So ek gaya to तीनों जाते. So we exercised caution as to हमको किधर कितना करना है. So we've had our share, but thankfully there. If there's one set of people in the world that I've really fallen in love with is the Russians.
Okay.
I mean, they are a different breed altogether, and I love them for what they are. I mean, for them, impossible is nothing. I mean, you should see them telling, "Oh, Kamath," that's the name of their truck.
Okay.
They don't like the Volvos and whatever. Kamath,
Okay.
They actually were there along the road, because if as motorcyclists we're not able to cross the road, the cars there are also not able to cross the road.
Not able to cross. Yes.
So they would have found some jugaad, and tractors are around that area. They come and they kind of pull the cars out. And in Namibia, what I would do is I would stop the bike. I would walk into the water. I would look at the road. I would see how deep, what area, because I'm alone. So there's nobody. I mean, in case something happens, then that's a challenge. So you got to be careful there. So I would always encourage people, know your road before you step into it. Crossing from Cameroon into Nigeria, because the Indian intelligence was very strongly supporting me during Omicron. The Minister of External Affairs, with the help of the diplomats, were very closely following my route. Thanks to our Bangalore South Member of Parliament, Mr. Tejasvi Surya, because of whom I was able to get out of the country to start with, and then because of whom he had connected me to the Minister of External Affairs, who had in turn connected me to the undersecretaries of the respective regions I'm traveling. And the undersecretaries had written to every diplomatic mission along the road, and the diplomatic missions were waiting and had assured any help. So technically opening the borders, getting me a visa, facilitating, that, he's an Indian and, we support his travel kind of a thing, and opening the borders into Angola. I mean, I can go on. I mean, this is like an exhaustive experience that I have, which I'm planning to put across into multiple episodes very soon. My most scariest moment has been my travel between the Guineas, number one. The first one is definitely between Cameroon into Nigeria, wherein they call it the banana boats. Those are trade boats. Okay. Exit from Cameroon. I was advised by the Indian Embassy in Yaoundé that not advisable to take any land routes into Nigeria because of the rebel issues that they have. And there have been instances where people have been shot and killed. Travelers have been shot and killed. So, and particularly during COVID, these instances, scale up.
Because monetary issues will also be there.
And so I was only advised to take my way out of Cameroon by boat. So I reached the port of Idanau, and there I realized that there is no passport stamping. I said, without a passport stamping, I'm not getting out. So I waited for about 2-3 hours, 4 hours before things were put in place through the intervention of the Honorary Consul in Cameroon. And what was supposed to be a sail out in the banana boat with so many other fellow passengers and their luggage at 9 in the morning, I could leave only by 12:30. And 12:30 is a time where you are actually in Nigeria. And this is a port where there are only trade boats. There are no passenger ferries. So my bike, I've got some really beautiful visuals of how my bike was laid down, wrapped in tarpaulin, and I was all alone with just 2 people to manage the boat, and getting into rough seas, because by the time we moved out of the Gulf of Guinea, it was almost 2 in the afternoon, and the weather dramatically changed. And that's the time apparently when the sea pirates also come out. So all these added, the weather's bad, it's turbulence there, the banana boat is literally going, throwing me off ups and downs, and I don't know swimming, and the life jacket that they had given me, I was in two minds whether the life jacket is going to save me or going to pull me down and sink me down. I mean, that's the state. I mean, I've got a picture which says, do I look happy?
All right, so this was the most scary moment.
Yeah, that, but of course, 4.5 hours of those, that moment has been, I still have that jitters whenever I think about it.
All right.
But otherwise, generally, Bulu, world over, I've confronted animals. I've confronted wild elephants. I've confronted wildebeests. I've confronted hippos. I believe you need to give them their space.
Right.
It's not always about creating content.
Right.
Some
That's
places you really need to enjoy with your eyes.
Right.
And if I have to close my eyes now and go back to that day, it's like, like it's just happening in front of my eyes.
Right.
And the Western corridor, or rather the African continent, is a colonized continent. The British, the Portuguese, the French, the Dutch.
Right.
Everybody has had their footprints and have started their slave trades. I missed Angola going to the slave museum, but I made sure I did not miss the rest.
Okay.
Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, Senegal. I went to the places where the African people were shunted out as slaves. These are places which are called point of no return. And I get goosebumps even when I think of speaking about it. What would those humans have felt leaving their beloved ones back? Cramped in a 30 feet by 30 feet, there will be about 300 people. No place to sit, just standing.
Right.
Peeing and potting in the same place and waiting for that ship to take them from their own land to the great Americas.
So Deepak, I think you have so much to share. So this actually one podcast will not justify this. I am sure that we have to make one.
Well,
more.
Bulu, you are speaking to one of its kind person in the world, so I'm sure I have loads of stories.
No, that is true. That is true. So I think one more podcast is required, because I have still not. I mean, you have not spoken about the.
I've not spoken to you about the after 2015. We've been speaking about all the rest of the things.
Right.
But then I must confess that SD was.
The second part is required.
No, second part is, you can. I mean, the days of Benelli taking me across the country, then the Trans-Siberian on the Bajaj Dominar, then the Polar Odyssey on the Bajaj Dominar. I've been a NCC cadet in my college days, spent 4 years with the NCC, and that I think has been a super strong foundation for me to face adventure in whichever raw form it comes to me. I think I owe my adventurous career to the National Cadet Corps, 1 Karnataka Armored Squadron. I'm from MES College, Bangalore. 1988 was the march on the Rajpath, which is now the Kartavya Path, on the 26th Jan 1988. And that changed a whole outlook of what my life can be. And coming back to Bangalore and sitting with the NCC majors, telling them that my friend here, Guru Raj, and me would like to go around our country on a cycle, which I believe no other NCC cadet in those days had done. We took about 4 months, 12,000 kilometers. We did about 17 or 18 states. We went to Kathmandu, Nepal, and we came.
12,000 kilometers on cycle?
4 months. Yes. 4 months.
Kilometers.
Exactly. Yeah. This was 1988, and my college supported me like, the kind of reception that we had. My college has a quadrangle, and there are 3 floors, and my college had about 3,000 students. I'm sure there were every student standing on the quadrilateral, like applauding us of what we have done.
All right.
Now that was adding fuel to the burning desire of more adventures. So a lot of people asked me, all India cycle to ho gaya? Kya abhi cycle leke duniya ghumne chaloge? Why not? So 1989 was the failed attempt to travel around the world on a cycle, and that's when I realized the world is so big. I have no time to cycle around the world, so I need to switch to motorcycling. And that's when 1990 was post my mom gifting me my ESD. 2 rides across the country, and then 1994 was around the world in 47 days, 42,000 kilometers in 47 days. And 96 to 2015, I took a hiatus. And 2015 was the Benelli that came into our family, the 600 GT, with which we traveled length and breadth. 2015 and 2016 was Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and Nepal on the Benelli. 2017 was the Dominar Trans-Siberian Odyssey, 6 countries, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Mongolia and Russia. 2018 was the Dominar Polar Odyssey across the American continents, covering about 51,000 kilometers across 15 countries. 2019 was my most beautiful, cherished year, is landing my Dominar in Antarctica. Right. And riding those 7 magical mines.
1st of Jan you did.
1st of Jan was landing on the iceberg, and then riding, thanks to Rusark of Russia, who acknowledged to take me and my motorcycle into Antarctica. 2019 was also a ride across the US on the Royal Enfield Interceptor. 2020 was COVID, but still, you know, I could pull off some strings to travel the 4 corners of my country on the KTM 390. 2021 was the Dominar Afro-European Odyssey, which took me from the southernmost tip of the African continent to the northernmost tip of the European continent. My wife has been a partner in crime. Right. She was with me from Vancouver to New York to San Francisco, which is roughly around about 19,000 kilometers as my pillion. And then she joined me in South Africa. We toured South Africa, and she was sent back home. I mean, she was never part of the larger plan, but she came back to Morocco, and from Morocco, all the places in Europe, about 26,000 kilometers as my pillion. So as a pillion, she would have put in about easily about 150,000 kilometers with me as a pillion between 2015 and 2022. And 2022 is when I came back. 2023, I'm just out finishing a ride on the Chetak. Again, it's an electric scooter. Yeah, I'm thinking something different. Can we do it? Why not? So let's see. 2023-24 should be an exciting year. I'm really working on.
थैंक यू सो मच दीपक दा. सो नाइस. तो अच्छा लगा दीपक दा. सो आई एम श्योर कि इसका एक सेकंड पार्ट बनना चाहिए, क्योंकि स्टिल देयर आर लॉट ऑफ, लाइक एज यू सेड, कि वो जो आर्टिक और अंटार्कटिक, वो उसकी स्टोरी इतना बड़ा है. डोमिनार को आपने मतलब बोट पे लेके गए, एंड देन यू लैंडेड इट ऑन ए आइसबर्ग, राइट? वही था ना वो भी. तो बहुत कुछ है सुनने के लिए. और देखो दीपक दा की जो ओवरऑल लाइफ की अगर आप स्टोरी देखोगे, एवरी फेज हैज़ लॉट ऑफ इंस्पिरेशनल वैल्यू. और उसी के वजह से ना, जब भी आप इनको कोई क्वेश्चन पूछते हो, देयर इज़ लाइक स्टोरीज, देयर आर लाइक अगेन स्टोरीज एंड स्टोरीज एंड स्टोरीज, एंड वो पूरा बहुत सारा स्टोरीज कंबाइन होके आता है.
Yeah, you know, Bulo, I always, I encourage people to take time, because this is one life.
Right.
And COVID has been an eye-opener. I'm not sure how many of us have actually realized that you don't know about your own life. I mean, even in the biking fraternity, I know of a few people who have just passed away, and they're very young.
That's true.
And they've succumbed to this COVID, right? So we need to be very conscious about, like how we shape our lives.
Right.
We should live for today. I mean, it's okay to kind of, you should have a dream, and you should give it all you got to chase your passion.
Absolutely.
But when you're doing that, make sure that, like in case you're married, your family should be balanced. I mean, it's the work-life balance. I don't discourage people to quit job and do this. I mean, it is rigorous, outrageously stupidity.
Right.
There are people on social media saying, I quit my job, I did this. Boss, no, don't do that.
Responsibilities को भी साथ ही साथ चलना पड़ेगा. ऐसा नहीं.
And all these social media platforms are like, like there are people who are driving it behind the scenes,
right,
which you and me will never know. There's somebody earning out because of your stupidity.
That's true.
So if you think that YouTube is giving you so much of money, there is somebody paying YouTube to survive, right? Otherwise, where is YouTube giving you the money?
So basically, Deepak da, these social media people, they are actually products of YouTube and Instagram. If you see, for Instagram and YouTube, for them the products are which they are trying to sell.
I mean, I've honestly, Bulu, I've never understood this equation. So I may speak something which is very stupid.
That is why you are actually doing it.
Yeah, you know.
Anyways, Deepak, that's all. Thank you so much again. So we'll wrap it up, and then I'll be editing this video, and we'll be slowly uploading it. And in the meantime, what I'll do is, like, even though this is a podcast, I'll try to include some part of clips from Deepak Das videos. What I would actually suggest you guys, go and follow Deepak Da on YouTube and Instagram. He is not so much active on YouTube, but I think Instagram, you are uploading some stories and all that. So I think you should follow him. I'll share the link of all his social media accounts in the video description. So please do follow. And then I'm sure he is on the way planning something next. I mean, there will definitely be something big. So I think if you follow him on Instagram, you'll definitely know what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chalo.